The National Electrical Code, Section 300.21b, addresses rooms and occupancies supplied from different sources. It states that where two or more rooms or occupancies are supplied from different sources, it shall be permissible to install the feeders for these different sources in the same raceway, cable, box, or enclosure only where all of the following conditions are met. Firstly, the enclosure does not contain devices or apparatus having overcurrent protection greater than 30 amps for 120 volts, nominal or equivalent. Secondly, the enclosure contains only the conductors supplying or passing through the enclosure. Conductors supplying or passing through the enclosure shall terminate within the enclosure. Thirdly, the enclosure is accessible to qualified persons only. Fourthly, the enclosure is marked to indicate its contents. In situations like the one described, where the receptacles serve different rooms or occupancies and are supplied from different sources or circuits, the UL listed 2 fire-rated junction boxes provide the necessary fire protection. The receptacles are not located in the same stud cavity, but they are in the same fire-rated wall. Therefore, this type of installation is permitted by the NEC. In more detail, let's examine the components involved. The receptacle itself is a device designed to provide an electrical outlet for plugging in various appliances and equipment. It's crucial that these receptacles are UL listed, which means they have been tested and certified by underwriters' laboratories to meet specific safety standards. This listing ensures that the receptacle is constructed with materials that can withstand certain levels of heat, current, and voltage without posing a fire hazard or electrical shock risk. The stud cavity refers to the space between two vertical studs within a wall. Studs are structural elements typically made of wood or metal that form the framework of a wall. The cavity between them is often filled with insulation to improve energy efficiency and reduce sound transmission. In the context of electrical installations, the stud cavity provides the space for running wires and mounting electrical boxes. The fire-rated wall is a wall assembly that has been designed and constructed to resist the spread of fire for a specific period of time. These walls are commonly used in buildings to compartmentalize different areas and prevent a fire from quickly spreading from one area to another. The fire rating of a wall is typically expressed in IRs, such as a 1 fire-rated wall or a 2 fire-rated wall. This rating indicates the amount of time the wall can withstand exposure to fire before it fails. The fire rating is achieved through the use of specific materials and construction techniques, such as using fire-resistant drywall, insulation, and sealing all penetrations in the wall. The junction box is an enclosure used to protect electrical connections and provide a safe location for splicing wires. Junction boxes are typically made of metal or plastic and are designed to prevent accidental contact with live electrical components. They also provide a degree of protection against fire and moisture. In fire-rated walls, it's essential to use junction boxes that are also fire-rated. These boxes are constructed with materials that can withstand high temperatures and prevent the spread of fire through the wall cavity. The UL listing for a fire-rated junction box indicates that it has been tested and certified to meet specific fire resistance standards. The National Electrical Code NEC is a set of standards and guidelines for the safe installation of electrical wiring and equipment in the United States. It is developed and published by the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA) and is updated every 3 years. The NEC is not a law itself, but it is widely adopted by state and local jurisdictions, and it is often incorporated into building codes. Compliance with the NEC is essential for ensuring the safety of electrical installations and preventing electrical hazards. Article 300 of the NEC covers general wiring methods and materials. Section 300.21 specifically addresses the requirements for maintaining the fire resistance of walls, floors, and ceilings when electrical wiring is installed. This section mandates that electrical installations must not compromise the fire rating of these structural elements. This means that any penetrations or openings created for wiring must be properly sealed and protected to prevent the spread of fire. Section 300.21b, as mentioned earlier, provides additional guidance on the installation of feeders for different sources in the same enclosure. This section outlines the conditions that must be met to ensure that the installation is safe and does not create a fire hazard. It's crucial to understand and comply with these requirements when installing electrical wiring in fire-rated walls. Considering this specific scenario, the NEC permits the installation of two receptacles in the same stud cavity that do not feed the same room, provided that certain conditions are met. Firstly, the receptacles must serve different rooms or occupancies. This means that each receptacle must be connected to a separate circuit that supplies power to a different area of the building. Secondly, the receptacles must be supplied from different sources or circuits. This means that each receptacle must be connected to a separate circuit breaker or fuse in the electrical panel. This helps to prevent overloading the circuit and reduces the risk of fire. Thirdly, the junction boxes used to house the receptacles must be UL listed and have a 2I fire rating. This ensures that the boxes can withstand high temperatures and prevent the spread of fire through the wall cavity. In summary, the NEC allows for the installation of two receptacles in the same stud cavity that do not feed the same room, as long as the receptacles serve different rooms, are supplied from different sources, and are housed in UL listed 2I fire rated junction boxes. This type of installation is common in motels and other commercial buildings where it is necessary to provide electrical outlets in multiple rooms while maintaining the fire resistance of the walls. It's important to note that this information is based on the 2020 NEC. Electrical codes and regulations are subject to change, so it is always important to consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes before performing any electrical work. Additionally, it is recommended to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the installation is performed safely and in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations. To further clarify the NEC requirements, let's consider some additional factors. The term different sources in section 300.21b refers to different branch circuits originating from the electrical panel. Each branch circuit is protected by a circuit breaker or fuse that is sized to protect the wiring and the connected load. When two or more rooms or occupancies are supplied from different sources, it means that each room has its own dedicated branch circuit. This is important for preventing overloads and ensuring that a fault in one room does not affect the electrical supply to other rooms. The requirement that the enclosure does not contain devices or apparatus having overcurrent protection greater than 30 amps for 120 volts, nominal or equivalent, is intended to limit the amount of energy that can be released in the event of a fault. Overcurrent protection devices, such as circuit breakers and fuses, are designed to interrupt the flow of electricity when the current exceeds a safe level. By limiting the size of these devices, the NEC helps to reduce the risk of fire and electrical shock. The requirement that the enclosure contains only the conductors supplying or passing through the enclosure, and that conductors supplying or passing through the enclosure shall terminate within the enclosure, is intended to prevent the enclosure from becoming a junction point for multiple circuits. This helps to simplify the wiring and reduce the risk of accidental contact with live electrical components. The requirement that the enclosure is accessible to qualified persons only is intended to prevent unauthorized access to the electrical wiring. Qualified persons are individuals who have the skills and knowledge necessary to safely work on electrical equipment. This requirement helps to ensure that only trained professionals are able to access and modify the wiring. The requirement that the enclosure is marked to indicate its contents is intended to provide clear identification of the circuits and equipment within the enclosure. This helps to prevent accidental disconnection of the wrong circuit and makes it easier to troubleshoot electrical problems. In addition to these specific requirements, the NEC also contains general requirements for the installation of electrical wiring and equipment. These requirements cover topics such as wire size, insulation type, grounding, and bonding. It is important to comply with all of these requirements to ensure that the electrical installation is safe and reliable. Furthermore, the use of UL-listed 2I or fire-rated junction boxes is crucial for maintaining the fire resistance of the wall assembly. These boxes are designed to prevent the spread of fire through the wall cavity by containing the fire within the box for a specified period of time. The UL listing indicates that the box has been tested and certified to meet specific fire resistance standards. When selecting fire-rated junction boxes, it is important to choose boxes that are appropriate for the type of wall construction and the fire rating of the wall. The boxes should also be installed in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions. In conclusion, the NEC permits the installation of two receptacles in the same stud cavity that do not feed the same room, provided that certain conditions are met. These conditions are intended to ensure that the installation is safe and does not compromise the fire resistance of the wall assembly. It is important to consult the latest edition of the NEC and any applicable local codes before performing any electrical work, and it is recommended to consult with a qualified electrician to ensure that the installation is performed safely and in accordance with all applicable codes and regulations.